What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am the unofficial Darku, and this is a video guide on an alpha catching method. At the time of publishing this video, we are just after the Johto update, which brought some changes in the alpha catching mechanics. The previous strategy of choice was a skill swap Spinda with Contrary. That tactic took a bit of a nerf due to the introduction of the stat reversal, where alpha's reduced stats now flip to increased stats. While it's still an extremely effective method, provided you don't just needlessly throw Pokeballs, I'd like to show you a method new to me that you might find useful. First, I'd like to give credit to my team member Secret GG for sharing this method with me. It originates from the Chinese player base, and I'll credit the video in the written guide. And onto the strategy itself, the overall premise is to skill swap the ability Normalize onto the alpha, and then use a conversion, Smeargle, or Ghost Pokemon to wall the alpha indefinitely. This enables you to ignore any incoming damage and just catch the alpha very easily. The Normalize ability causes nearly every move in the game to be normal type, so once it's on an alpha, any ghost type can just sit in and laugh as the alpha does nothing, and you can just spore and false swipe freely. Because the only Pokemon that has Normalized is Delcatty, it takes a pretty tricky setup for this to work. To lead, we have a bulky Pokemon with the moves Yawn and Skill Swap, and a lagging tail. I'm using Slowbro, but something else like Musharna could also work here. The Pokemon first yawns, then uses Skill Swap. The lagging tail ensures that Skill Swap is used last, which is important, and then you switch to Delcatty on the guaranteed sleep turn from Yawn. After that, once Delcatty's in, Copycat will use Skill Swap and then swap Normalize onto the alpha at that point. And then you're then free to switch in your Smeargle or a Faint Out with the Delcatty, and you have the free swap to Smeargle. Then all you need to do is use Conversion on Smeargle to convert it to the Ghost type. And if you've gotten to that point, you're free to Spore and False Swipe. And now there are definitely some weaknesses to the strategy. Certain moves like Hidden Power and Weather Ball are not at all affected by Normalize. The lead Pokemon needs to survive and use 2 moves in clean succession for it to work properly. If that lead Pokemon faints, you're kind of donezo. If it gets paralyzed or frozen or slept or something, that kind of messes everything up as well, or could. And then when you swap to the Delcatty, if the alpha, let's say, then wakes up that turn and uses a priority move, or it's just able to outspeed somehow through speed boosts, the Delcatty will copycat that move instead of Skill Swap, because that'll be the last move used. And then another way it can fail is when you get the Smeargle in, kind of same thing. If it gets fainted or some status effect screws everything up before you can use Conversion, that can also mess everything up. You could potentially just bring a Ghost Pokemon with something like False Swipe and Hypnosis if that exists, or just another status move to prevent that. But yeah, that's just another way it can fail, and that's kind of a non-exhaustive list of different things that can go wrong. Definitely check out the written guide in the description if we find any more things that can mess that up. And let's get to a quick example of how the strategy works. So this is an interesting one where it can actually go wrong. The Sudowoodo knows Rock Polish, so it gets that speed boost. Luckily, its base speed is super slow, but still frightening nonetheless. I have an underlevel Delcatty and Smeargle that I'm just using to test this method right now. They're not ideally IV'd or anything, so this might be problematic, but we'll see what happens. So turn 1 Yawn, turn 2 Skill Swap. Obviously, if Slowbro faints in either of these 2 turns, that's a problem, but we are able to do this cleanly right here in 2 turns for this alpha. We've got the Yawn off. We have a guaranteed sleep turn, so this is a free swap to Delcatty. And so because Skill Swap was the last move used, Copycat here will let us use Skill Swap, and boom, the Sudowoodo has Normalize. Now I'm just going to quick switch into this Rock Climb Bidoof so that when it wakes up, it Rock Blasts it or it does whatever. 1 hit KOs it, and we have a clean swap. You could also just let the Delcatty faint and stall turns for timer balls. I'm just doing that for expedience sake. So we've got our Conversion Smeargle. Conversion obviously switches your type to the first move you have in your move slot. So it's going to switch me to a Ghost type here. And suddenly, the Sudowoodo can't do any damage to us. Now, you'll see here that there are some inconveniences with this strategy. False Swipe obviously does very little damage. It doesn't really matter at this point now what the speed of the Sudowoodo is. Let's see what Shadow Sneak damage does here. It's a little bit more. We'll cut to when I get this Sudowoodo down to a reasonable HP range to start throwing timer balls. You can also just bring a Super Fang Pokemon to weaken it before you begin the strategy in cases like this where it's very bulky. Obviously, the type affects the attacking moves, but doesn't change the defensive types for normalized. So you're still left with the defensive types and whatever bulk the Pokemon has to get it down to 1 HP. But you can just go forever because, or virtually forever, it might run out of PP and start struggling. But we'll cut here. Okay, and Sudowoodo is at 1 HP now. We've got it asleep, and I am very confident we are way past turn 11, though I wasn't counting. And we are free to just throw timer balls. And hopefully we get a quick catch here, but that's the strategy in a nutshell. Obviously, there are some risks. It may fail in certain instances. I will still be keeping my skill swap Spinda in cases where it might be risky or you're unable to actually use this method, but this definitely is a bit brain dead overall. There's a decent chance that the developers nerf this, I'd say. It does kind of trivialize the alpha fight or most alpha fights, so they could do something to either make this more difficult or just remove it entirely like they have certain tactics in the past. So I would put it at like a moderate risk of getting nerfed entirely. You can choose to breed and build Pokemon if you want to. That's ultimately your discretion. I'm going to be using it for the time being, as long as it's still working, but yeah, it's ultimately your discretion. And of course, this alpha doesn't want to be caught. And boom, through the magic of editing, we're done. It's caught. That's it. So that's the strategy. Let me know what you guys think. If this is useful to you, please let me know. And yeah, that's it. I just want to give another special shout out to Secret GG for showing me the strategy. And yeah, just wanted to say also check it out. Check out the link in the description to the written guide. I'll be able to update that there if there's any specific changes or other risks or things you have to look out for that I missed in the video. It's impossible to edit a video after the fact, or virtually impossible. So use that as the first choice, or check the descriptions, comments if I have any other additional points to make. But yeah, thank you for watching.